So had left Holland and moved into France and were getting ready to tell me about the Battle of the Bulge.
Yes, we had been sent back to reserve in France, and the situation had gotten sort of static. We were bogged down a bit. Nothing much was making much advance. We were at dinner one night at the General Gavin's headquarters. I can't remember the name of the town that we were near. The telephone rang, and I, being the junior officer, answered the phone. The person at the other end of the phone was literally incoherent. He was screaming and shouting that the Germans are over here, they're overrunning all of us, they are coming out of every place, we're outnumbered, we need some help, let me speak to the Chief of Staff. That was the first notice the 82nd Airborne Division got of the start of the Battle of the Bulge. Before midnight, some of our units were rolling. We went over the next day, went through the town of Bastogne, Bastogne, followed by the 101st Airborne. 101st was caught there, surrounded, and you remember the famous saying, General Tony McAuliffe, when asked to surrender, said nuts. That's what they said he said, yes. And refused to surrender, and incidentally, there isn't a man in the 101st who will ever admit that they needed rescuing. Patton's forces came up later on and broke the ring that surrounded them, but no, we were doing all right. We didn't need rescue. Paratroopers. The first few days of the Battle of the Bulge were pretty bad. Nobody knew where anybody was. I was still General Gavin's aide at that time. We had lost contact with the 504th Regiment, part of the 82nd. And he said, son, he always called me son. Now, I was 24 and he was 36, but he called me son. Said, we've lost contact with the 504th. I want you to take the Jeep and the driver and go down and find them. Find Colonel Tucker and let me know about that. We started down, it was just at dusk. Now, his driver was terrified on good days. And here we were, going through unknown territory. I had a sort of a map, but not knowing where we were going or where we would find the 504. And Landers was terribly frightened. Toward us came a column of tanks. We were going south, they were coming north. Landers said, Lieutenant, are those ours or theirs? I said, I don't know, Landers, keep moving. I learned later on, we didn't have any tanks in that area. So we had passed, presumably, a column of German tanks that thought I probably was one of theirs. At any rate, we found Colonel Tucker and the 504th. I told him what the general had sent me down to find them. Colonel Tucker had the most beautiful command of profanity I've ever known, and he let it all go. You tell that black general that this, blah, blah, blah. So I came back and General Gavin said, you found Tucker? Yes. I said, what did he say? I told him word for word. He laughed and he said, that sounds just like Tucker. At any rate, the Battle of the Bulge finally got settled down. And it became a defensive situation early in the year that dragged on, nothing much happening. And in just about the 1st of April, before the war ended in May, General Gavin and I found it very easy to converse with him. And I said something about a rifle company, before the war ends, etc. He said, well, you think you'd like to do that? I said, no offense, sir, but yeah. Where do you want to go? 3rd Battalion, 504. I had several friends there. So I was assigned to the 3rd, to H Company, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. We were on the western bank of the Rhine River, just north of Cologne. Now at that point, that is a wide, wide river. The Germans were surrounded, the so-called Ruhr pocket. They were surrounded on the eastern side of the river. And yet they insisted, somebody up the line insisted, that we keep running patrols across the river, seeing what the units were over there, getting a few prisoners if we could. I was the newest lieutenant in that company, and the day after I arrived there, I got orders to take my platoon a night patrol across the Rhine River. We had a couple of boats. We had to row, had to paddle, of course. Got over, went down toward the Bayer, the aspirin, Bayer factory. Got on our objective. Coming back, we were jumped by a German patrol and got caught between the dike and the river. Water dike to our front, the river to our rear. I lost 3 men, managed to get the rest of them back. Got hit in the eye, thought it bled and clotted closed, and I thought I had lost it. Got back, reported in, and was told to go down to the medics. And the kindest medical officer washed it out slowly. I saw the light of day. It had just missed my eyeball, and it cut the inner side of my eye pretty good.
Bullet or what?
I think a bullet hit a rock beside my head and defragmented. So that was, and he said, Lieutenant, I think you're going to be all right. You got a Purple Heart, go back to duty. So I went back to duty, and the war ended the next month.
Oh my goodness. And you got a Purple Heart?
I did.
How'd you feel about that?
I felt pretty good to be alive.
I expect you did.
I very much, it really saddened me to lose some very good soldiers. Thinking over and over and over again, I'm not sure how I would have done things differently. And talking it over with my fellow officers and with my own men, I don't know how it could have gone otherwise.
Was that pretty much the end of the war?
That was the end of the war, yes.
That was when then?
That was in April of 1945.
And were you then in touch with your wife?
Oh yes, we were able to send letters back and forth at that time. Yeah.
And your baby was born sometime? Or
Well, she was born right after D-Day
after D-Day?
in 44.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get my dates completely confused. So what did you do then? When did you actually leave the Army?
We came back, well, we continued to be in Europe for most of the summer because the war was still going on in the Pacific. And it was a given that we were going to the Pacific. Our only hope was that we would go west and get home for a while through the United States rather than go east and come in the other way.
Mm.
But we knew, and we were ready, you know. We'd got this, we won this part of the war, let's get over there and help win the other side. And then, of course, the atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, and that ended the war. And I came home I think early September. I should be able to remember the date. But I came back, Marion was, with our daughter, was living in Boston. I needed another year and a half of undergraduate school, and then wanted to go to medical school. Now the GI Bill was my lifeline. You know what I'm talking about, yes. Paid for 48 months of schooling, and there was a housing allowance or something and so on, which enabled us to do that. I found I went over to Harvard College, and they didn't know what they were going to give the next semester. And I had some specific science requirements that I must meet. Found myself in Tufts College in Medford, Mass, just outside Boston. Got my degree, my Bachelor of Science, applied to and was accepted at Harvard Medical School. This poor boy from Mississippi.
Well, how was it coming out of the Army and into school and into some kind of normal, quote-unquote, life?
This, again, is something that I and my colleagues have talked at length about.
Yeah.
One is a transition from a peace-loving young man into a trained killer. And then to make the transition back again, I personally had no difficulty doing that. For me, my life had been compartmentalized somewhat. The war part of it was over. It was now the education phase, and later on in my training phase to become a surgeon. Even those of us veterans in school, in college and in medical school, really didn't talk about it much. We were too busy. It was very demanding, and we didn't dwell on the war.
You just put it behind you? You just walked away?
Yes, I don't think there's anything heroic about that. It's, as I've tried to explain, I had moved from this situation to this situation, and this situation didn't require me to kill people. That was done.
So, as you think back on your experience, how do you think, or do you think it shaped your life in any way?
Oh, of course it did.
Okay.
Of course it did. And my feelings came to be, and are very strongly these days. To this day, war does something to a company, to a country. Somewhere along the line, one of my men was badly shot up, fatally, I knew. And I was holding him, and he said, "Lieutenant, am I going to die?" And I said, "I'm afraid so." He said, "That means I'll never get to live." This just says a very lot, I think. When we send our troops to war, we're sending people whose lives we will never experience. Who knows another Einstein, a Henry Ford, a famous doctor, a good farmer, a mechanic, a family man, a father, grandfather. They'll be deprived. We will be deprived. It isn't just depriving a young man of his life or injuring him so severely, they'll never amount to anything. We deprive our country of that, and it's a very high price.
A resource.
It's a very high price to pay.
Do you have friends that were in the service with you now
Yes.
that you keep up with?
Yes.
All over the country, I suppose.
A few.
Mm-hmm.
A few, yes.
And do you, how long have you kept up with them now?
Oh, there are a couple of three. They're throughout. One of my fellow lieutenants in the 504, highly decorated. He used to come, we were in Miami. He was with the State Department. He would come through, occasionally stay with us on his way to South America. I saw him within the year, talked to him within the week.
Hmm.
By the way, he's written a very good book about the parachute infantry experience.
Oh,
It's called On the Way to Berlin.
uh-huh.
His name is James Megellas, Megellas.
Did you join any sort of veterans organization after you got out of the Army?
I think for a while I was a member of the 82nd Airborne Division Association.
Uh-huh.
That's about all. I not much of a joiner of those kinds of things. If there's time, I'd like to. One little incident with my General Gavin.
Oh, absolutely.
We were in Miami, and the 82nd Airborne Division had a reunion. They said, well, Rufus, you know him, he knows you. Why don't you pick him up at the airport? I'd be delighted. I had just gotten my first sports car, of which I had money. It was a little British Austin Healey, and it went vroom, vroom. So I picked up the great general and got him seated and buckled in, and we went vrooming through the streets of Miami. And he patted me on the knee. He said, "Son, just take it easy, will you?" He said, "I'm very uncomfortable in these sports cars." He's a great paratrooper general.
Oh, goodness.
He didn't like sports cars.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So you came on to be a surgeon.
I did.
And
I've had a blessed life.
did you have a specialty in your surgery?
General in vascular surgery. Vascular was just coming along.
Uh-huh.
When I finished my residency, I went to Miami as part of the original faculty of the University of Miami School of Medicine.
Oh, my.
And at this moment, I'm an emeritus professor.
Oh, you are?
But we had a wonderful practice in Miami, just a great time. I got involved with so-called organized medicine, with medical associations. Was on the board of the AMA for many years. I missed being president of the American Medical Association by 3 votes.
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness. That may have been a blessing.
I think it was, Marion says the best thing that ever happened.
Right.
And then I was chairman of the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Hospitals, et cetera, et cetera. It's more than I could ever have asked for.
So
or
you've
dreamed
had a
for.
distinguished military and civilian
Well,
career.
distinguished may be too strong a word.
I don't think so.
It's been a wonderful life. And my greatest blessing, of course, is my beloved Marion.
And you have one daughter?
We had 3 children.
3 children.
We now have a daughter and a family, live in Gainesville, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
A son who is an architect, city planner, so on, designer in Albany, New York.
Mm.
Our first daughter died as a result of an accident when she was within a month of graduating from Agnes Scott College.
Oh, goodness.
But that's part of life.
Well, I have loved spending this time with you. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Do we have any time left? Anything else you would like to add that we maybe have not covered?
Not that, not that comes to mind. I think we've hit most of the high points.
Right. You had a lot of high points, didn't you? A lot of action and stuff. Well, I thank you so much. This was
I'm honored
real
and flattered
pleasure.
that you would ask to interview me, and you made it very pleasant.
well, I'm delighted.